The freedom of discipline, a statement which seems paradoxical at first. After all, how could restriction lead us to freedom? When we think of discipline, we naturally think of conformity and strict rules that need to be adhered to. And the word itself has a very negative connotation attached to it. And then the polar opposite to that is freedom. A word that clings to your mind, a word that screams in your face, I have no rules. But most importantly, a word that brings joy to many around the world. But what if I were to tell you that true joy isn't the freedom of chaos dressed up as liberty? It is the freedom to create, to do and to become what you truly intend, which is almost always built on the foundation of discipline. Think Cristiano Ronaldo. When we watch him play, the only word that comes to mind is relentless. From the way that he leaps over defenders as if gravity is a made-up concept by man, to the way that he shoots free kicks with pinpoint accuracy, along with having the calm of someone who shots them hundreds, if not thousands of times before. That's because he has. Literally. His training sessions went on and on, even after his team training sessions ended. This is the key to his actual phenomenal success. The truth is, his discipline did not limit his game. It expanded it to what it truly could be. Ronaldo once said, talent is nothing without hard work. And I believe that he is the best example of this. He has trained every single day of his career to become better than the day before. And the truth is, this very private, relentless discipline is what led to the public freedom that we all see every single time that he steps onto that pitch. The freedom to take that last minute penalty, the freedom to attempt that crazy bicycle kick, and most of all, the freedom to play at the highest level of football despite being well into his late 30s, when most of his peers would have retired 5, if not 10 years ago. We have it all wrong. We think that freedom means having no constraints as a whole. But a river without a bank is not a river at all, it is simply a lake. Because the banks are what give the river its direction and its force to move. You might think that this applies only to artists and athletes, but neuroscience disagrees with you. The more choices your brain has to make in a day, the worse they progressively get. Psychologists call this fatigue. So this would imply by evening your willpower is drained, your judgment is compromised, and you simply reach for whatever is the easiest. Every decision you make costs you something. Now, there is a solution to this, and it's called discipline. Discipline conquers this. When your day is automatic, you wake up, exercise, work without even negotiating with yourself. So you're essentially protecting your day. On the same note, many successful people in life say the same things. That their days are basically identical to each other. They wake up at the same times, do the same things every day. They even eat the same food, or maybe even go as far as to wear the same clothes every single day. Now, apart from being a very boring routine, what this does is that it also builds a tremendous amount of discipline inside them. Aristotle once said that a person who acts virtuously out of habit is more free than someone who constantly struggles with their impulses. Not because that person has no impulses, but because they've trained themselves to act above the impulses themselves. The Stoics went even further with this idea. They argued that the only freedom in life is inner mastery. Everything else, whether it be your job, your health, or the economy, can all be taken away from you. But the only thing that cannot be taken away from you is your inner discipline. That's yours to keep forever. I'd like to take the example of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. He had everything man could ever ask for. Yet, his private journal shows constant everyday battles about disciplining his inner thought and disciplining his inner impulses. In that very journal, he was writing to himself, for himself, reminding himself every single day to resist comfort, to seek discomfort, but most of all, to show up every single day, day in and day out, and to actually get the work done. Here's the harsh reality for some of us here. Without discipline, we are simply not free. We are slaves to impulses. We are slaves to the cravings of comfort, but moreover, we are slaves to comfort as a whole. And the most important thing that I believe, without discipline, we are slaves to whoever or whatever is the most skilled at capturing our attention. Social media companies hire hundreds of engineers and psychologists whose sole job is to make sure that you cannot look away from that pixelated screen. So this means that your freedom to scroll is not freedom at all. It is simply a chain wrapped in the illusion of choice. The real freedom in life is not the freedom of enjoying yourself. It is the freedom to decide in advance who you want to be, and then build the actual structures to make that person your living reality. But now, if discipline is so essential, why can't I incorporate it into my own life, sir? The thing is that discipline rewards long-term commitment towards a certain cause, but our brains are wired to crave short-term rewards, like munching down that chocolate bar, scrolling reels, relaxing and avoiding effort as a whole. This is what makes the long-term reward of discipline feel so completely unbearable to the short runs of motivation that we get every single day. Furthermore, discipline requires a lot of mental energy. If people are tired or they stressed, they simply don't have enough mental energy to make logical decisions. Discipline also requires mental bandwidth, not just sheer willpower to push through it. Many people rely on motivation to complete their tasks. But the main issue with this is that motivation levels will naturally rise and fall throughout the day. One day you could feel like, oh, I want to do this. Then the next, doesn't feel like it. But then discipline requires reminders, routines and proper structures. And without that, without discipline, without structures, even the most motivated people are bound to fail some way or another. Now, don't get me wrong here. Discipline is not about never failing. It's not about having no distractions. It's about knowing how to get up once you fall down. It's not about never falling down in the first place. Then, how do I actually, this may sound good on paper, but how do I actually incorporate it into my own life now? Here's what I suggest. Think of discipline as a muscle. You train a muscle by continuous repetitions. So I would suggest the same for discipline. Practice discipline no matter how, try to maintain a streak, keep going on the same habit. 2. Change your environment. This is the biggest factor of all. Remove distractions, remove distractions, remove distractions. Remove distractions and add in visual cues that help you to remind you to take those steps. See, coming back onto the same point, use technology to remind you to take those steps and do not feel ashamed of how big or small those steps may be. If you have a partner or a buddy who has the same goals or the same tasks as you, do not feel ashamed to team up with them. And the final and the most important one is to reinforce this by actually rewarding yourself for even the wins you take, regardless of how big or small your wins are. Because at the end of the day, a win is a win and a win is an accomplishment and you need to celebrate accomplishments. So to conclude, I want to leave you all with a question and a challenge. My question to everyone in this room is, what type of freedom do you actually want? Do you want the freedom of fleeing away from effort, which usually leaves you drifting where you are and no idea what you want to do in your life? Or do you want the freedom of mastery that comes from doing hard things until they become effortless and simple to you? The challenge is even simpler for you. Pick one area in your life. One area where you're waiting to get started until you feel motivated, until your mood is right or until the clock strikes. Start anyway. Build one ritual. One embarrassingly modest habit will also do, but make sure that you protect that habit as if your life depends on it. Now, motivation is not the cause of the action, it should be the result of the action. You should feel motivated because you did such a thing. Your discipline will come first, and then after your discipline shall follow your inspiration. Now, I want to say, Ronaldo, because of Ronaldo's training, because of that, when he was on that pitch, this is why he was the freest player on that very football pitch. When the lights were the brightest and when the stage was the highest, this is why Cristiano Ronaldo was the freest player on that football pitch. Now, the freedom that Ronaldo has is there to everyone. It's there to everyone in this room. It always has and it always will be available to everyone here. But to truly unlock it, first, you have to stay back after training ends. Thank you.